first church, that first century church. We've been talking about how God was moving very powerfully. We've been talking about anticipation and expectation that the church had, about how they were moving out from who they are and from where they were, and they were encountering their world, and they were making a huge impact in the world, not because of their strength or because of their understanding. Those religious leaders in bringing Peter and John before them recognized that they were unlearned men, but they had been with Jesus. It was all about Him. It continues to be all about Him. In this day of so many distractions, it's easy to get lost in the stuff instead of the Savior, instead of God, instead of understanding the kingdom of God and who we are and how He's put us together and how He's empowered us and how He wants to use us. As we look around this world, there is a lot of chaos and confusion. There's no doubt about that. The world is a powder keg. And it will continue to be a powder keg. And it would be no surprise to me and probably you either, should more monumental events take place in this world. I mean, at any given moment, war could break out anywhere. It's happened before. We're poised to see it happen again. There are forces at work. There's evil afoot. There is stress and strain on this world that everywhere you look. That's the world we live in. And because of that, we have the opportunity to be seen and heard. If this world ever needed hope, if this world ever needed to hear good news, if this world ever needed somebody, someone who will stand and speak truth and do it unequivocally and powerfully and poignantly and directly, it is today. And I believe, and I believe you believe, that that's who God has called us to be. We are the truth agents in the world. They will not get it from anywhere else. We now have fake news. Well, we need truth news. And it will not come from other places. It sure won't come from networks. It won't come from governments for the most part. It has to come from the church. And that does not mean that it has to come from way out there someplace. That church, I don't know, there's a fictional church that we imagine. And we place all our view toward that and we think, well, that fictional church needs to do something. But the whole time, God is speaking up. And listen, we talked a little bit last week about how, and we hear it in the news all the time, how terrorists are being radicalized. Well, if untruth can radicalize, should not truth radicalize also? Should not the church be the most radical agent that the world has ever seen? Everything we're reading about here in Acts chapter 2 tells us that. We talked last week about they were radical in their perseverance. They were the Donald Trumps of their moment. The government, the establishment hated them. You just read a little bit further. Read down into Acts 3 and 4. They're going to bring Peter and John in, and they're going to tell them to shut up because that truth that they're speaking is radicalizing people and changing the landscape. Religiosity is in danger. We need religiosity in danger in our day, by the way, folks. It's easy to be religious. It's easy to make our list of our do's and our don'ts. But I'm going to tell you, Christianity goes much, much deeper than my do's and my don'ts. And if that's all I'm caught up in, then I'm just chasing my tail day after day. It doesn't work that way. There was perseverance in these folks because they had great anticipation. They had experienced something. The presence and the power of God had come upon them, and they saw how it changed everything. How people were diametrically, incredibly, powerfully flipped from previous lives. What had mattered didn't matter anymore. And a movement was begun. It started small. 120 people in a room, upper room. The Spirit came, and before long, they were 3,000 strong in one day. Talking with the staff. What in the world we do if we get so radical that 3,000 people show up right there? We'll work it out. We'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday church. Won't be a problem. We'll get them all in here. But they were faced as a minority, the voice of the crowd, the peer pressure that surrounded them. Do you find that true in your life and my life today? We are not the popular kids on the block. As a matter of fact, we've come to the place in this nation that right is wrong and wrong is right. And now you're a bunch of lunatics. We are labeled a bunch of crazies who are running around, espousing weird ideas that families matter, that life is important, that God is real, that change is possible. And the world doesn't receive that very well. Because we are selfish in our need, because we want what we want when we want it. And I don't want somebody telling me what I need to do. I don't want somebody telling me how I should live. But we are a radical church. And so we are not afraid to face persecution. And we persevere in difficult times, just like we're persevering now. We should be. Much better. So they were radical in their perseverance. And the world looked at them and said, man, these people are strange. They just go to the next one. I'll never get through if I hang up right here. They were radical in their perception. The anticipation was so high, and I read that to you when we started. Did you see that picture? That they observed this radical group, this radical movement. And they were so enamored by it and believing that anything became possible that they started bringing their sick out into the street and just hoping that one of these guys' shadow would fall on them. That they would just get a touch of the blessing that they saw taking place in this radical church, this radical movement taking place. And perception exploded. They realized there were no boundaries in this thing by what was taking place. And we talked about last week how's our perception level? How is our anticipation level, our expectation level? If I don't expect something to happen, I don't look for something to happen, and something is probably not going to happen. And if I'm just satisfied with the status quo, if I'm just satisfied with the life I'm living, if I'm happy with my home and my kids and my car and my dog, and I don't need anything else, then I'm probably not going to have very much of an impact on my world. People change things because they have great because they anticipate, because they have a desire stronger than just the status quo. They have a stronger desire than just what am I going to eat tomorrow, where am I going to go, what am I going to wear. we so easily get distracted. This morning we're looking at, they were radical in their, there it is, personalities. Oh dear, personalities. You may not like it, sometimes we may not like it, but you've got a personality. Sometimes it's an albatross hanging around their necks. And when it becomes the tail that wags the dog, we're in a lot of trouble. I heard the story some years ago, and I'm just going to give him a name. It's not his real name. Glenn Friedman was a professional photographer. And he was conscripted to go up in a plane and skydive with a bunch of skydivers. They were going to do some kind of formation, some kind of stuff up there, rodeo, something. And he was going to video and take pictures of these guys as they were skydiving. Of course, he took the quick skydiving lessons and those kind of things. And the day came and he got on the plane and he loaded all his cameras and equipment and all that stuff on him. And the moment came and they all dove out of that plane, and they don't know at what moment in time he realized that he had put on all his equipment, but he had forgot to put on his parachute. Glenn didn't survive that trip because he was distracted by all the stuff. He was so focused on what he needed to do that he forgot to do the most important thing, strap on a parachute. We are so distracted by this world. I don't know why my wife wouldn't let me sleep last night. Here we go. 1 o'clock, we're still lying in bed and we're just having some conversation. And I'm thinking, boy, I wish we'd just go to sleep. And it was like that all night long. You ever have one of those nights you're completely aware of everything that takes place? Every sound, every noise, every bird that chirps, every whatever. And you're just sitting there thinking, boy, I wish I could go to sleep. Well, that was a miserable night. Got up this morning and noticed my toenails needed fixing. The government's not transparent, but I'm transparent. Okay. And so I started hunting that. The toenail clipper. Now my wife has gone out and she has bought extra toenail clippers, but she bought the wrong ones. She bought the ones that are rounded this way. How do you cut toenails? My clippers always are rounded this way because it fit, you got it. I'm running around the house and I find two, and I know that there is a real pair of toe clippers in that house. And in my stupor and stupidity, I'm trying to find the perfect toenail clippers. I haven't slept half the night. I'm trying to think about, I've got to come out here this morning and I've got to produce for you folks. And I've got to look clean and sharp. So I put on my white coat, by the way, to offset everything else that's going on in my life today. And you know, you just catch yourself. I'm running around the house barefooted, and I'm thinking, I don't want my toenail clippers. How easily distracted we are by the foolish minutia of life, by things that don't really matter. And the amazing thing about a radical church is, I told some newlyweds doing premarital counseling with them, I won't call out their names. This week. And I told them, listen guys, you're talking about, it's hard to get two people to live together in the house. Can I get a witness? But when those two people are a man and a woman, it has all been impossible. And apart from Christ, you will probably stab each other with toenail clippers if you don't get over yourselves. And we have got to get over ourselves. And we make excuses, well, that's just the way I am. Well, bless God, that's why He came, so you can change. That's why He came and He's changing me, so you don't have to put up with me. So you can have Christ, His heart, His life, His thoughts, His feelings, His mind, in somebody else. That's what this is all about. We will never become radical in our one heart, one mind, one spirit, one Lord, one baptism, until we understand that we have to be overcome. Just because I have a personality does not mean that I have to live with that personality. But there is a God who has died on the cross and ascended into heaven and sent His Spirit to indwell me and indwell you. And that's called personality change. But I have to be willing for that. What an incredible thing that we can come in here. And there's diversity in here. I mean, if you've talked with each other for a few minutes, we're diverse. We have different feelings and thoughts about things, and my wife can tell you I'm diverse from her. So how? Now, all who believe we're together and all things in common. How in the world does that work out? Well, number one, I stopped searching for what I stopped looking for my toenail toes. And I just believe that what you need is more important than what I need. I just believe that I'm going to focus on you, and I'm going to look at your needs, and I'm going to point my life in that direction, and I'm going to love you through every heartache, through every circumstance, through every bad experience. I'm just going to accept you as I am. And I told these folks who I didn't mention that you're not going in this to fix him or her. That'll never work. And if you go into this relationship thinking, well, bless God, I'm going to fix it. There's only one thing that I need to fix, that's me. And as soon as I get me fixed, then I'm going to fix you. But I haven't got to that place yet. I haven't got myself fixed yet. But I'm willing. And I'm willing to seek the Lord. And I'm willing to let what's best for this church motivate me. I'm willing to let what's best in your life be a focus of my life. And come alongside of you and just say, how can I help? How can I encourage you? How can I strengthen your faith? How can I help you on this journey that God's called you to? Instead of saying, boy, I wish they would. If they would just, you ever have those conversations? If they would just straighten up, my life would be better. Well, you know what I find out? In those rare moments when I get my life straightened out, I don't think about your life as much, about how messed up you might be and how all the difficulties that I might need to fix in your life. But suddenly, there is a spirit of love. And you know, that's what made that church so radical. And you remember what I read? It said, and they found favor with the people. You know why they found favor? Because their personalities did not wag the dog anymore. Because it wasn't about them anymore. It was about each other. And about the common good. About not communism, but commonism. They had all things in common. They were radical in their possessions. They looked at that early church and they said, these folks just love each other. And they love each other so much that they're selling their stuff. Now listen, let me alleviate some fears real quick. This was a moment in time, and this is not a doctrine of the church that you have to go and sell everything you have and pay off the debt, okay? That's not what we're saying. At that moment in time, they had great need. It was an early church, and those folks were so in love with each other that they sacrificed what they had to make sure that somebody else's need was met. That's the way that worked. It wasn't across the board today, so don't worry, you don't have to go home and sell your cars and your houses and all this kind of stuff. But we still should be so radical that we look around ourselves and when we see a need, that we're willing to help with that need. A genuine need is a need that needs to be addressed. And that's a part of who we are as the church. And we should be so radical that as we come in contact with need, even as they did, that there should be no need. Now with us, we can pool, we can do some things, we don't have to, but if God leads you to do that, if He leads you to sell your house, pay off this debt, we will accept that, okay? Just put the check in here, it will go through. I won't have a problem with that. But they were radical in how much they just came together and just loved each other. And everybody mattered. And they were not inward focused, they were outward focused. And that became evident in their purpose. They were radical in their purpose. It says, continuing daily with one accord. Now that's pretty radical. Suppose I started saying, now we're going to have a prayer meeting every day at the church. And we're going to ask you to give up your lunchtime to come here every day and pray. And be in one accord. And if we were to get that radical, folks, you talk about changing landscape at Double Springs Baptist Church. Our anticipation and expectation levels would rise to such a degree that they would burst the barometer of who we are and what we accomplish. And they were radical, and they were a praying church. They were a purposeful church. And they knew that there was something out there over the horizon, something greater than themselves, something bigger than themselves. Instead of just seeking to get ahead, to satisfy their own whatever, they looked out and they said, you know what? I've been living my life. And I haven't got a lot of purpose out of it. I've accomplished some things. But there's got to be more. Do you ever sense that there's got to be more to the life that you're living? I mean, are we really satisfied with the lives that we live? Are we satisfied with just making it through this life? Is there not more anticipation or expectation in my and your life than that? Do we expect just tomorrow's going to look like today? It might be a little cloudier, it might be a little sunnier, but it's just going to be another day in the neighborhood? There's got to be a purpose greater than there is an ingrained void in our lives. There's a desire that's been placed in mine and your life that God has put there. The Bible describes it as God has placed eternity in their hearts. There is an eternity in us, not a finality, not just a finish line. But there is an eternity here that we look to. There's an expectation, and really these folks were just so radical because basically they had seen Christ and they believed they were going to see Him again. We've been saved. We've as believers in Christ, we have seen Christ in that aspect. We have experienced Him. Now there should be such an anticipation that we're going to meet Him face to face. That we do become the audible, visible expression of Christ in this world. That we do become His hands and His feet. That we take on His life, and when we take on His life, we take on His purpose. Not our own. We look beyond ourselves. And we focus on Him and we get the mind of Christ. There is an amazing verse in John chapter 12 and 14 that I'm going to read, and I'm starting to close now. Somebody say amen. Okay, make that 14:12. And most assuredly I say to you, Jesus speaking, red letter, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. So you can do Jesus' work. Read what Jesus did. And greater works than these he will do, because I go to my Father. Now don't get caught up in, we don't expect you to go out and calm the wind and the waves, okay? But to be a change agent, to be an instrument in God's hands, that you will see people come to the kingdom, lives will be diametrically, incredibly changed. And here it is, and whatever you ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask anything in my name, I will do it. Is that one of your favorite verses? Do you believe any iota of that? Do you really believe that? Jesus Christ said, anything you ask, I will do. How in the world does that work? It works for a radical church. It won't work for anybody else. But as we, as the body of Christ in this place, as we seek the Lord, as we get His heart, as we have His mind, then we will ask rightly and correctly. We will ask with His purpose in mind. We will ask with eyes on the kingdom of God. And God will answer. And God will do it, because we don't ask amiss. Anything we ask in His name, He will do. So what are we asking Him to do? What's our anticipation? What is our expectation level in this thing? What are we asking God to do? What do we think He's going to do? How do you think He's going to work in your life? What do you think He's going to say to you? And what are we going to do about it? Are we just going to go about our business and say, well, that was nice? I haven't come here to this place, and I haven't come here to this day and this moment to try and make you feel good, to try and help us just to have a good time here, that we go out the back door and listen, you never have to tell me, preacher, I really enjoyed that message. You don't have to say that. I'm not looking for that. What I want you to go out the door and say is, God spoke to me today. And it changed something. And because of that, I'm going to go out from this place and I'm going to do something today that I haven't done before. God has spoken. He's directed my heart. I've sensed His plan and His purpose for my life. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to fulfill that plan and purpose. That's what this is about. That's why we stand Sunday after Sunday. That's why we have small groups. That's why we encourage each other. But until we get radical, until this truth so transforms our life that nothing else matters, until we come to the place that we can see Jesus instead of just hearing about Jesus, things will never change. We'll still have a good time. We'll still enjoy each other's company. But the pews will remain vacant. Hearts will remain unchanged. Lives will not be touched. God's plan will not be fulfilled. It's not that fictional church out there, folks. God's not speaking to something. God is speaking to His people. We are His people. God has given us His word, and He's saying, come, follow me, just like He gave that invitation to them. And they radically believed that. They radically followed Him. They bit down hard, hook, line, and sinker, and they said, whatever it takes, wherever we need to do, whatever I need to be, it's not about me anymore. It's not about what I want. It's not about what I think. I'm tired of leaning on my own understanding. From this day forward, I'm going to trust Christ, and I'm going to lean on Him. And I'm going to let the life of Christ so permeate me, so fill me, that I'm going to go out from this place and I'm going to stop walking in the flesh and I'm going to start walking in the Spirit. And when that happens, when we just stop talking about it and we start responding to God, that's when change is going to take place. That's when the world's going to look at us and say, those radical people down there, that's when we're going to find favor in this community and in this world. By those who have a need, by those who understand that need, by those who are seeking, by those who want the truth and who need life change, who are looking for a relationship. We are surrounded by those people. And they don't know who we are. They don't know who He is. We can no longer be silent. We can no longer live in fear. We can no longer keep it to ourselves. It is not about us. To do that, I'm going to ask you to give up something. Because Christ asked you to give up something. I'm going to ask you to give up your life. That's the only way this works. Christ came and He died so that we can die with Him. So that we can be buried with Him. So that the old man can go to the grave. So that He can place a new man in us, Christ, the second Adam. And so that we can operate from a whole new level. The bar is way too low. But God's calling us to excel. God's calling us to have a great anticipation. Why would we not expect the God of the universe, who's done all these things for us, not to come alongside of us and empower us and propel us and give us everything we need so that I can stop being me? So that I can stop living my life. So that I can stop being who I am and what I want and experience an incredible, radical life change. And everybody look and say, I don't know who that guy used to be. But I see something. And more than that, I see someone. Deacon Stephen believed that so much that he went and got the face of the powers that be who would stone him to death and said, in essence, listen, I know you're going to kill me, but I love somebody so much that I just want to tell you one more time who he is. And as they stoned him to death, they saw the face of an angel, they said. More importantly, he looked up and he said, I see the Father, Jesus standing in the right hand of the Father. I'm going to offer you an invitation. I'm not going to beg someone to do something. As I offer you this invitation, I want you to think about this. I want you to think that God may be getting ready to speak to my heart. And that in times past, I've put up a wall, I put up a barrier, and I have said, God, I hear it, but I'm not willing. For whatever reason, God, I'm afraid you're going to ask too much. I'm afraid I'm going to have to give up something. I'm afraid that I might lose something. God, there's just a lot of fear in responding to you, because I know how big and great and powerful you are. And I'm afraid that you're going to expect big and great and powerful things out of me, and I'm just a simple person. I've got a lot of fears, I've got a lot of anxieties in my life. I'm afraid of what you've asked me to do. I'm going to ask you to lower that defense. Don't do that this morning. Would you just, as you bow your heads right now and close your eyes, would you just genuinely say, speaking to God, God, I want to hear your voice this morning. And God, I'm going to trust you this morning. And I'm going to place my life in your hands. And I'm going to give myself away. And I'm going to believe that you're big enough and powerful enough and love me enough that you will take my life and you will give me everything I need. You'll take away every fear, every doubt, every anxiety. And this morning, I'm just going to trust you so much, and I'm just going to throw myself on you. And whatever you say, I will respond. Would you do that this morning? And now I'm going to pray for you.